You guys know I love podcasting and listening to podcasts, and I'm guessing if you're listening to this that you love podcasts too. Have you ever considered podcasting yourself? It is a great way to reach your audience, grow your know, like and trust factor, and not need to show your face unless you want to. If it is something you've thought about but you don't know where to start, then head over to becomeapodcaster.uk/BAP quiz, BAP quiz, to access a 2-minute quiz that will help you work out what type of podcast might suit you. That's becomeapodcaster.uk/BAP quiz. Burnout is what happens when you try to avoid being human for too long. Michael Gungor. You're listening to the Mindset and Action podcast, bringing you the map to grow and streamline your business in 2023. I'm your host, Donna Eade, your go-to gal for all things podcasting, planning and productivity. And I'll be bringing you all that plus mindset goodness from experts with knowledge to share. Let's make 2023 the year of success in your business. Today on the show, we have a guest. Yes, our first guest of the brand new version of the podcast. I would love to introduce you to Alison Wheeler. She is a world-renowned confidence coach, award-winning athlete, and a celebrated entrepreneur. Her magnetic success and authentic presence enable her to work with clients to reach their full potential at a pace that sparks motivation. With a Bachelor of Health Science and NLP training, Alison specializes in helping women unlock their true potential and customize their life and business for success. Say goodbye to burnout and hello to a life that works. Welcome to the podcast, Alison. I'm so happy to have you here. Thank you so much for joining all the way from Australia.
Oh, thank you, Donna, so much for having me.
Oh, do you know what? I just love accents. Anytime somebody from not England comes on the show, I'm like, I could listen to you talk all day. I just love a good accent. And you're in Queensland now, right?
That's correct. Yes. So I am your morning time right now, and I'm evening time. So we're on the same day. We're just at opposite ends.
just about still on the same day. But you do always get everything first down there, don't you?
That's right. Exactly. We're in the future.
Time. It's a weird thing. So, Alison, before we jump into today's topic, and guys, we're going to be talking about burnout today. So if you have ever felt burnout, if you have sort of feel it creeping on, this is going to be the episode to really listen into. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background? Because you have had a long, varied background. I was really fascinated by all the things that you've been up to.
Yeah, look, I have had definitely a varied background. So my original profession, I'm an occupational therapist by profession. So that's kind of my starting point. Then I went into coaching within that profession. I've also been an athlete my entire life, so variation of sports, but at a very high level, always at a high level. And then I had my daughter, and my husband decided to start a network marketing business during that time. And then I sort of joined him in that, because when I became a mum, your priorities change. And I'm thinking, how am I going to do this life juggle thing and be there and have the career and still do all of those things, which I wanted to do. So joined him. He was going okay in that, but I'm like, well, if we're doing this, we're doing it properly. It needs to replace our incomes. Let's hurry up. So it became part of that. Then basically kind of ran that for 13 years, very successfully, built it to 7 figures. And then COVID came along. That was very interesting. One, it really railroaded the business because we ran events, so that wasn't so good. But also it really made me rethink, because it had a lot of success, but I still wasn't satisfied. I wasn't happy. Something wasn't right. So it gave me that pause, because I was working very hard, very long hours, long days, to get to that. Couldn't really get it to a point where I could have other people doing things for me, because you needed to be there for your team. So it gave me that pause, and it really made me reevaluate my goals and purpose everything, as it has for most people. and realized that I'd pretty much done everything. I'd ticked all of my goals. I'd done everything I could in that company. There was no further growth, and it really wasn't in alignment with my values anymore. So after 13 years, it was a really challenging decision to depart. That wasn't easy for me, but I was done, and I really needed to move on before I became very resentful, when it's time to move on. So
Yeah.
I extracted myself out of and then really reestablished myself back in business coaching again fully. Not that I've ever really stopped, but decided. And the thing I love about this iteration of my business, number whatever, I don't know, many, is it's all my own. So I'm 100% in control of how I build it, what it means to me. I've had the pleasure of partnering with Grant Cardone this time around to become a 10X coach as well. So, because I align with that philosophy. So, when I feel that the importance for me is to be able to express who I truly am, my values, and then help people to do that within their own business and their life. And I guess that's kind of where I've come to. In that process, through COVID, I wrote a book because it really helped me find my voice again, and because I felt really lost. So I wrote and published my book, which, by the way, if you've ever written a book, takes way longer than you think, because it's really confronting, because it's your words on a page, like they're stuck there forever, can't undo them. So it's like,
if only more people saw the internet like that, because they say the internet's forever, yet so many people put so many words out there that, later on they're trying to, oh my God, can I take it back? Yeah. They need to pretend they're writing a book.
Exactly. I don't think people quite, if it was like, if the internet was a paper that was around, and they put it in the shop or on the, on the window in a shop, people might think differently about what they write. But and what else have I done? And then, at 40, I guess it really kind of came through COVID. It has sort of hit 40, and there's different points in your life, I think, where you reevaluate. That's been one of the many. But 40, looked in the mirror and went, I don't like who I see. I don't like what I'm creating. I don't like the person I'm being, right? I'm cranky all the time. I'm tired. I'm working like a slave, it felt like anyway, or the modern day equivalent. Because I've never been a slave, so I don't really know what that's like. I can't imagine it, but the modern day equivalent of, and it was time to shake things up and turn things around, get my health on track, my life on track, put the time back into the relationships which I'd neglected. My daughter wasn't happy with who I was being, like all of that. It's like, yes, okay, on the outside you might look super successful, but on the inside things aren't so good. And it wasn't authentic for me. I'm the type of person that everything all tides need to, when the tide raises, it all needs to be going well.
Yeah.
Not perfect, but well. So I guess that's where I am today. And I'm really passionate about people living their best life, right? Not their best part of a life, because something will pull it down.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a whole thing. And that's why, I rebranded the podcast. So we're now Mindset and Action. And that's because I feel completely the same. Like, there is no point in you having this fantastically successful business if when you go home at night, your partner's not talking to you, your kids are giving you back chat, and, everything else is falling apart. It has to come together, and we have to try and find the balance of success. And I recently did a podcast episode talking about the work-life balance myth, and I do believe it's a myth. I don't think that you can have balance in your life in that way. You have to prioritize, but it's for the overall thing, isn't it? You balance this and that.
100%. But I think the reason I think balance is a myth, right? If you imagine a seesaw, when a seesaw is balanced, it's not moving. Now, in case anyone hasn't noticed, life moves at a pace. So if you are trying to balance, it's like you're trying to hold your entire life in a standstill.
Yeah.
Well, wake up and smell the roses. Life is never going to be at a standstill. It moves at 1,000,000 miles an hour. So
the closest we got was COVID.
Yeah, well, exactly. So I think life is fluid, and I think it is rather than us trying to strive and fight for this balance thing, it's like, what are the most important things for you? And do you have them in your life, right?
Mm,
Are you putting time into the most important things? And then what are you willing to give up? If you're going to add something out, if you're going to put something in, what are you willing to give up? Stinking
mm,
thoughts, relationships. It could be a physical thing, right? Like we bring more stuff into a perfect example. You bring more stuff into your house. You go to the shops, you buy more stuff. What are you just going to keep filling your house up? No,
mm,
eventually there's no room. You have to physically remove something to make space for something. It's the same in the context of literally everything.
mm,
So I think when we strive, and I hear the words of someone say, "I really need work-life balance," I'm thinking, well, do you, or are you just neglecting something that's super, super, super important to
to
you,
you,
and
yeah.
that's weighing you down, right? Like it's causing you grief because you're not putting the time and energy into that thing that is important to you. So there's this level of neglect, whether that's
Mm,
self, whether that's a relationship, whatever. Then we label it work-life balance, but then I think we're striving for something that is not actually a tangible thing to do because nothing is stagnant.
mm,
And then too, right? Like if like in the morning you're one person and then in the afternoon I'm someone else. Like I'm that change, like you're changeable, and oh
yeah.
wow, I want this goal today. And then but then in 12 months' time, I might want totally different goals because it's
Mhm.
always evolving and you
Yeah.
want it to always be evolving. Sometimes I see people too, Donna, they get so fixated on the vehicle to get there or the goal, and they don't realize that, like COVID, right? It changed the game, and it changed the
Mm,
game in a lot of businesses, and people were not fluid enough to go, okay, the goal is the thing, but I might need to completely change the way I operate to now get to that goal.
mm-hmm.
So, and through that, I mean, I competed in bodybuilding throughout that time. So literally, I was prepping for a competition when I got a phone call from my coach to say, turn around from the gym, comp's cancelled.
Mm,
Now, when you're that close to competing, it's not as easy to do that, right? Like you literally just can't go home and eat. You've got
yeah.
to then try and step your way out of it and then maintain, like had to try and maintain and adjust and do different things to be ready to compete again as soon as the time was that we could compete again. So, that ability to that I had learned as an entrepreneur and as an athlete to be extremely fluid, and extremely and able to change. Not that that you don't. I was annoyed, right? Like she's like, turn around and
Can
don't go to the gym.
imagine.
I'm like, I'm going to the gym just to burn off the steam of the fact you just told me I can't compete, right? Then I'll go home and eat. So,
Mm,
but it's not that you don't have emotions. It's just that you have fluidity.
yeah. I think that's so good because I'm actually so funny that we're really on the same wavelength here because I'm doing a talk next week at a networking event where I'm going to be talking about your vision versus your why and why your why is the most important thing, but the vision can change. So you talking about having the goals be one thing, but the vehicle to get you there is different. It's just like it's just singing my language, Alison. I love it. So we're going to be talking about burnout today, which I think is a really good topic leading on from this conversation because a lot of people are trying to get that balance. And I said in my previous episode that, if you're giving 50% to work and 50% to home, nobody's getting 100% of you. And, but people are trying. They're trying to give 100% to work. They want to reach those goals. They're trying to give 100% to their family because they know that they started their business so that they could be there for their family more. And, there is this pull to the point where it kind of implodes or explodes sometimes and they reach burnout. So what is burnout and how can it manifest? What sort of things are we looking out for?
Yeah, look, and I think it can manifest differently for different people, but the key indicators to me that you're heading that way, I hear people, I've lost my mojo, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've lost my passion for what I'm doing. I'm bored. I can't get out of bed. I'm fatigued. I'm tired. My hormones are out. My iron levels are low. I'm cranky all the time, or, like it doesn't take much and you lose it, right?
Mm-hmm.
or you just don't have, people say, I need a thicker skin. Well, no, you don't. Right, that you just become more and more intolerant. You've become more susceptible to getting sick. Like all those little indicators, and usually the indicators start off small, right? So they're just something where you start to get a bit of a sniffle, or like you notice, oh, I'm just kind of not shaking that off. It's unusual that I'm sick. Or I'm really tired. I can't get out of bed. Like, although they start off small and it might be mild, right? Or once off, but then it starts to accumulate. And I think if we don't listen in the early stages, then it starts like a little tap at the door, and then all of a sudden the Mack truck comes along because you weren't listening. So then it's much louder. Like I've experienced burnout in my career, in my life, more than once, because I didn't get it. I didn't understand. So I replicated it. And then I think once you've had it once or twice, and we also get a fear, oh my goodness, I'm going to have this burnout thing again. Because sometimes you can burn your adrenals out that far that, the recovery on that is a very lengthy process to rebuild. So I think we know too when we're heading that way, and we just try and work through, I just got to toughen up. If I just work a little bit harder, just work a bit harder. Or it must be me, right? It's me. It must be me. I hear that a lot as well. It's like, well, your life's falling apart. Yes, okay, partly it's you, but it's not all you. Because there's, the start, and that burnout starts, it's not an overnight thing. You don't just suddenly wake up burnout. It accumulates. And I think too, what a lot of women do particularly is they'll sacrifice themselves. What I mean by that is, right, the goal becomes more important than the individual who actually has the goal in the first place. Go, I'll just sleep a bit less to get more done. Well, what do you think the toll is of cutting back on sleep in the long term? Like, we live in a physical body, whether we like it or not. That physical body, this physical body we live in, it has certain physiological needs, basic needs. And when you start to sacrifice those needs, eventually it turns up in ways where your body goes, I don't want to play anymore. When you've sacrificed those physiological needs for long enough, what then starts to happen is your mental health goes awry, because you can't hold the negative thinking off, because your basic needs are so out. So to control one's mind takes effort and energy. And when you've depleted that energy that far, then one's mental health goes awry, because you actually don't have the energy to hold off the negative. So then we have this physical issue that then becomes a mental health issue, and then combine those two things together, and it's not very pretty. That's when we have burnout, right?
Yeah. And I think it's really important to notice, and I really thank you for those thoughts around what it looks like, because I never saw that myself. Like, when you lose your mojo, that's the start of it right there, and that's where you need to sort of stop and start evaluating before it goes any further. And it leads me nicely into sort of talking about how we can avoid it. So, now we know what it looks like. Give us some tips on what we can do so that we don't let it go any further than
100% recognition. like absolutely. Like, you've got to be aware, right? Number one. Then, I spoke about because we've got the physiological, we've got the psychological, and then we've got the life, the living, right? They're different things. So I think when you, first and foremost, you have to be willing to change. And not think it will be okay. Oh, it's just because I can hang on, right? I can hang on longer. No, you can't.
Just pass this one more launch. Just get
this one more, just a little bit longer. Just hang in there, right? So number one, I think you have to. It is sane to ask for help. You are not going to build your multiple 6-figure, 7-figure business by yourself. The sooner you realize that, the better. You need help. Now, it's not a failure to ask for help. It's not a failure to have help. It isn't. It becomes a failure when you don't.
Yeah.
So, and also sometimes we can be really egotistical. We can call that lots of other things as well, because we think, well, it's more work to get help, right?
Yeah.
Or alternatively, but they're not going to do as good a job as me. It's like, well, actually, that comes down to your communication skills and your ability to articulate to someone very clearly what you want, but also what you do not want. For example, if you have a significant other and you say to them, I need to work late, and that therefore in your mind, that means, can you cook dinner, please? Because I'm not going to get there and I don't want to be starving. Well, and all you've said is, I'm going to be late. And then you get home and you're annoyed because dinner's not met. You never asked.
Yeah.
That clarity to prevent burnout, you have to have clarity of communication. You also then ask very clearly for what you want when it comes to support and what you don't want, but also check in with the other person that they've understood it. And also that they have time in their world and their universe and their busy life to actually do it too. Because if they cannot commit to that in the time frame that you need, you might have to ask someone else.
Yeah.
Right? So ask for help. It's not a failure. Meet your basic needs. And if we bare bones it, right, we make it really simple. Get enough sleep, drink enough water, eat good food. And don't eat once a day. Eat regularly. You've got to balance sugar levels. There's so much research out there about the effects of imbalanced sugar levels and insulin, the effect of that on our mental health. I could go on, but I will not. You can Google all the research yourselves because there's heaps, right? So that's the basics of the physiological. And then, I mean, we could go beyond that, right? Like you also have sex as a physiological need. We do. So there's also that side as well. And I noticed too, when women head further and further to burnout, that turns off. No interest. Really good sign that something's awry, right? Because it's a part of a physiological need. And it's as a part of an expression of self as well. So, another indicator. So you got your physiological needs, then your from a mental health perspective as well, basic self-care. Now, that does not mean you need to take 2 hours out and go and have a massage, because depending on your personality, that might drive you nuts.
Yeah.
Right? Like some people think going and getting for some people, going and getting their hair done is self-care. For me, going and getting my hair done is an annoying inconvenience. It takes too long, right? So it's not like I like it when they clean it. Like I like the scalp massage, but the rest I'm like, can we be finished now? Because I've got other stuff to do, right? So that for me isn't self-care. Right, you've got to be aware of what that is. So for me, I would rather go and put my feet on the beach and look at the ocean for 5 minutes. That's self-care because I feel like I have space. So anything that creates space for you as an individual, as a person, is very important. Like you've got to get outside and have space. Know what that self-care is for you. You need to define success and self-care for you, because I think another part of burnout as well, Donna, is sometimes we're building success on someone else's definition.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? Not on our own. We haven't actually stopped to take the time to define what success is across each area of our life. Like, I want to be healthy. Okay, what does that actually mean to you? I want to be successful. I want to succeed. Okay, what exactly does that look like for you? Because for you and I, it's different. For everybody, it's different. And it's okay that it's different for you.
Yeah.
Right? So define what self-care is for you. So for me, it's go put my feet on the beach for 5 minutes. It's sit there and have a cup of coffee. Like that can be read a book, listen to a book, right? For me, it doesn't have to be big, long time out. It can just be those short things. And having that periodically placed throughout the day as it works better for me, right? You also need to know yourself as to, are you better to have a block time where you do things like that, or are you better to periodically put it through your day? It just depends on you as an individual.
Yeah.
But those small things that can fill your cup, breathing is an amazing thing. How often do we hold on to our breath, or we're breathing way out with our axillary muscles, right? 3 or 4 deep breaths can be an amazingly rejuvenating thing. It calms our system down, brings our cortisol levels down, all of those things which are important to prevent burnout. So from a business level as well, have massive goals. And the reason I say that, which seems contraindicating to burnout though, is because the reason that you want really big goals is because the more you bring those, like, you don't want to bring the goal down. The more you make the goal smaller, the more you make you smaller. And when you make you smaller, burnout kicks in harder, right? Like, we want to keep ourselves expansive. We want to keep ourselves feeling like we have space. So keep the goal big, because that's where motivation comes from, right? When that goal is big enough, but across your life, not just in one thing. Because okay, having more money makes a massive difference to your life, but money is not the be all and end all of life. Like, it needs to be for something, like that bigger purpose. So keep the things in your life that are very, very valuable to you and important to you. Like, if you are sacrificing your family for your business, you will reach burnout. Guaranteed, because it will wear on you every single day that you're not attending to your family. So somehow you need to figure out how you can put quality time in with your family. When can they get the best of you? Not the worst of you, the best of you, right? When can you give you the best of you? How are you going to make sure that you are being the best of you? What practices do you need in your life to give you the best of you?
Yeah.
Right. And living off coffee and living off, a meal a day of whatever sugary things people like, those things, they're indicators something's out, right? Like, I know if I start drinking too much coffee, I'm heading towards burnout. Like, it's like, okay, hold on a second. What are you like, you are off the rails. What are you missing? Right. And it's not like you will resolve this forever and it'll never come up. No, you'll set another goal. Right. And then all of a sudden you're going through it all over again to try and manage this new thing. As we reach into new areas, you will likely face it again in a different way.
Yeah.
But with knowledge, you don't have to end up in burnout itself. Like, you can just kind of go, whoa, hold on. I'm off center here. Let me figure this thing out. What's out of place? What's out of whack? Where do I need to put my time?
Yeah, it's so true. I think that a lot of us, we go to burnout and then we crash and we think, oh, this was the wrong thing for me to be doing. I obviously can't handle it. I need to do something else. And we go and we change what we're doing. And I heard somebody say something the other day on a webinar I was listening to, where she said, the problem with people who have like a failed launch at something is they think that it's the product that's the problem. And they haven't tried tweaking anything. They haven't looked at their data. They haven't seen where people were falling off. And it could just be a tweak on the sales page that could make all the difference. And I think almost the same thing happens with us as people. When we burn out, we think, this life is obviously not for me. I need to change everything. And it's not everything that needs to change. It could just be a tweak.
And most
Amazing.
often it is just a
Yeah.
tweak. But if we're that's where when we get so fixated on the vehicle, we can't tweak it because we think it's our identity. No,
Yeah.
business is a vehicle.
Mm,
Period. End
mm,
of story.
yeah.
Right. And you need to be able to tweak it regularly. But your life is the same. You need to be able to tweak. Like you need to be able to change things. And you go wherever you are.
Yeah.
So if it's the practices that you and being able to read the data correctly
Mm,
as well, and then making tweaks and changes in your life
yeah.
so that your life works for you. It's here to work for you, not against you, but we can set our lives up to work against us. So I agree. A lot of people will just, oh, well, that's not for me, you know? It's like, well, if it's not working, you're just missing some valuable pieces of data, some information, some knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah. Brilliant. Okay. So I think it's really important that we started where we started. I'm very much more of let's prevent something rather than let's fix something. You know, if we can prevent it in any way, that's what I want to do. So we've looked at what it is, we've looked at how we can prevent it. But what if we're there right now? What if somebody listening to this is like right in the middle of burnout? What are some things that somebody in that situation can do right now to try and stop the burnout for a start and get themselves back on the balance?
Yeah, be nice to yourself.
Mm,
Because if you're in the thick of burnout, like real burnout, getting out of bed can be a problem.
mm,
So you cannot force your body to recover from that faster than it will. You can do a lot of things to support it, though. So I would have a team of people around me that have a clue, right? So educated professionals, could be a doctor, could be naturopath, depends on where you land within that. And it might, like, if the team that are supporting you out of burnout aren't helping and don't have the answers, it doesn't mean that someone doesn't. It just means they don't.
mm,
So it can take a little bit of refinement to find the people who can support you out of that. So I do think there are a lot of benefits in different sort of supplements and supports and things like that. Because when you're that depleted, it's very challenging to build, because you basically got to build back up. You got to
yeah.
build the systems back up, like you've tapped everything out. So, know that it's a process to build that back up. Know too that you are real, and this will probably be the biggest challenge for most people who are thick in burnout, is you are going to have to ask for the most help you probably ever asked for in your life.
Mm,
And that will make the difference as to the speed in which you get out of it. Yet it's probably the most confronting part. Allowing yourself the rest you need. If you need to rest, you need to rest. When you're in the thick of burnout, you will need rest. So it may mean, if you're still working through that you have to completely change the pattern of your work, right? You might have been a 12-hour, 13-hour day person, no problem, got so much done, it's crazy, right? It's how most people start. You might be a 20-minute stint working person now, right? Short stints, rest, short stints, rest. Because sometimes too, when you're in the thick of burnout, the brain fog's really bad.
mm,
Because you can't concentrate for very long. So being prepared to go about the way you do work in a totally different manner. I will get as much support and help as you can. People who've experienced it, they know what they're doing. They know, like, you don't necessarily have to stop everything, but you will have to do everything different.
mm,
More gentle, right? Like if you were 100 miles an hour, it's not that you necessarily can't exercise, but you probably can't exercise in the way you were.
yeah.
Right? Like you still need to move your body. You still need to look after your stuff. You still need to get out of bed. They're important, right? For your mental health, if nothing else.
Yeah.
it's likely you will need to do that. So redefining some of those things. But remember, it's only redefining it for a short period. It's not forever. And in that thick of when it's really bad, we can think it's a forever. It's not a forever.
You too can get through this.
You can, absolutely, 100%.
Okay, so one more quick one, because I love that idea of preventing it before we get there. So I'm hoping that, there are many of my listeners that aren't in that, and if they have experienced it, it's in the past, and hopefully the tips that you've given today will help them to make sure that they don't get to those desperate times again. But I want us to have Alison in our ear. I think it's really powerful. Like we don't think about it when we're in it. We know what we should do. We know we know we should look after ourselves. We know we should do this. And it's really weird that I'm using that word, because I did an episode a little while back going how we need to eliminate the word should out of our diet, out of our vocabulary, out of our diet. Out of our vocabulary, because we're always shoulding all over ourselves. And I would love to know what you would say to somebody, what you want them to hear in that moment where they're going, but I've got loads of work to do. I should be at my desk working, when they're spending time with their family and they're feeling guilty about it because they've got a deadline at work, or, they're taking 5 minutes to read that book and drink that coffee and have that me time. But they're like, their brain is just going, I should be at work. I should be at work. I should be working. What can we hear Alison say in our ears to help us go, no, hang on, it's okay.
Yeah. Talk to the voice in your head. It's not you. Tell it to back off. Thank you very much for your input. Like literally talk at it, because when it's talking to you, it's not you. When it's talking to you, it has control. When you talk at it, you have control. Talk at it, right? So thank you, voice in my head. Some people name it whatever you want. Thank you, Bob, Billy, Mary, Sue, whatever, for trying to protect me right now, because that's all it's doing, right? It's a past voice that you've agreed with. It's something you've seen in your life that you've agreed with. Thank you for trying to protect me. Right now, I don't need you. If and when I'll do, I'll pick you back up again. Because the wolf that you feed is the one that survives. Starve the voice in your head. Feed you.
So good. That is so good, because I've just literally thought about that, how it's the voice of the past. When you said that, I was just like, oh my gosh, yeah, it's everything you've told yourself. A successful person is somebody who grinds, the hustle, the this, the that, and you programmed your mind to think this is what we need to be successful. So when you stop, the voice is going, hold on, no, we're going to fail. We need to get back to it, because success is this and this and this. This is what we said, right? And it's that reprogramming. That was so good, Alison. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it's that reprogramming, and it's also having your definition of success, right? Again, you can say, okay, thank you, past person. This is my definition of success now.
Yeah.
And literally you can talk out loud to it. I know people might think you're crazy and it sounds crazy, but literally it gives you control over it. Because either it controls you or you control it. It is a version of you from the past. It's not you.
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't talk to you like that.
No, exactly. So good. So good. Lovely. Thank you so much, Alison. I really enjoyed that conversation. Before we go, I would love it if you would tell us a little bit about this book that you mentioned at the beginning. What's your book about? Where can people find it? And I think also you say you've got we can actually go and talk to Alison. She's got a free strategy call that she's giving away. So talk to us a little bit about those things.
Absolutely. So my book is called Living from the Inside Out, How to Become a Modern Day Wonder Woman. Not a superwoman, not do everything, modern day Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman is the person who has the wisdom to know the difference, right? So I cover the 9 superpowers throughout my book, how to identify your superpowers, how to live through your superpowers. It's very experiential, hands-on book where you actually interact with the book and so that you can get the most value. It's a very much an implementation book, and you can go through it, in a linear fashion. You can use it out of order. It actually doesn't matter. So different chapters might speak to you at different times. Use it the way is best for you. And you can find it on Amazon would be the easiest place to find it, or on my website, which is thealisonwheeler.com. And yes, anyone who is listening who would like to chat, who would like to book in a free strategy session in and around building your business, burnout prevention, those things, then I'm sure that you'll pop the link in the show notes.
I will indeed. Right. We have got a new section of the podcast that I have introduced with the new rebrand, just for my guests, and it's our quick fire round. I love to sort of know a little bit about, you as a person. I think these little questions can help tell us. So if you're up for it, I will ask you some quick fire questions. Okay. So obviously, other than your own book, what is the one book you would say has had the most impact on your life so far?
Oh, see, I have to choose 2 for 2 different reasons.
Go on then. I'll let you.
Because they are. Right. So I would say The Alchemist, which I love The Alchemist, because it's just a beautiful fable and story that talks about you coming back to yourself. It's a brilliant book. And then the 10X Rule by Grant Cardone. So those would be the two books that have really shaped my life.
Fabulous. Okay. And what is your go-to snack when you're in a hurry?
I would probably make a protein shake.
I wouldn't imagine that for you, Alison, honestly, seeing some of your pictures online. Guys, you need to go and follow this woman on Instagram, the Alison Wheeler, is that right? On Instagram?
Yes.
And oh my gosh, the body is amazing. And I think you've got a photo somewhere of you in a white suit, or definitely white trousers, and you look amazing. I'm like, I wish I could in white trousers. Oh my Lord. Okay. So I think I probably know this. I think you've already answered this in this episode, but what's your ultimate me time thing to do?
Beach. Go to the beach. Yeah,
100%.
Go for a walk. Yeah, go for a walk on the beach, because for me, I just love there's so, and I said it before, like the space, the abundance in the space. That's my favorite spot.
Yeah, absolutely. I am 100% with you, although I live nowhere near the sea, and the sea in the UK is nowhere near as beautiful as the sea in Queensland.
It's very different, yes.
I get very little sea attention, but for me, it's water. Like if I can be near open water, whether it's the sea or whether it's a massive lake that I can't see the other side of, I just love that, like you say, that expansiveness of it. So totally with you there. Okay. Thank you so much for your time today, Alison. It has been a fantastic conversation. I've really enjoyed it. Where can people find you? I know you mentioned your website, but where on the internet do you spend your most time?
Probably the easiest place will be Instagram. So it's at the Alison Wheeler. And yeah, people can DM me there.
Fabulous. Well, do guys share this episode. Tag me and Alison in it. It's Donna_Eid_ on Instagram. Tag us both. Share this episode. Tell us what your biggest takeaway is. And I hope that you will join me next week for another episode. Bye for now. Don't forget to hit those stars and leave a review of the podcast where you listen if you found value in what you heard today. It's a free way you can help the podcast reach more people just like you.